Hello, everybody joining us live and joining us for the recording once we push that out. I'm Steve Stott, President of the Sherman Players, and I'm here with my co-host, Robin Frome. Say hi, Robin. Oh, there we go. There's a nice bit of variety.
Hello.
That's his hello for this week. That's very good. And welcome to Keep the Ghost Light On from the Sherman Playhouse. Now, we've got an absolutely packed show for you tonight. We have 4 guests. And it's an international show. We're going all over the world. We're going to the UK, so we're going to England and Scotland. We're going to Naugatuck, Connecticut. Ooh, that's exotic. And we're going to South Carolina, which is slightly more exotic. So before we get started with our guests, I just wanted to have a little chat about what's been going on in the world. As everybody knows, the coronavirus is surging somewhat over winter as we get into winter. That was, probably expected. Particularly badly hit is the UK, and you may have heard on the news that a new strain of the virus, which is more contagious, doesn't do you any more harm, but it is more contagious, has arisen around London and the southeast of the UK. That has forced the UK into tighter lockdown measures for the Christmas period at the very least, and maybe well beyond. Where that has an impact, obviously, is everywhere. Certainly in London and the southeast, where really it's back to complete lockdown the way it was at the start of the epidemic. It's unfortunate for the performing arts, or more unfortunate for the performing arts, really, because a few theatres were starting to open up, putting on socially distanced performances and appropriate shows. No sooner have they opened up, they're forced to close down again, and that, I think, is probably the worst of situations. When you're gearing up to get going again and the rug is pulled from underneath you. And it's not just the performing arts, of course. Just about all aspects of the economy and life are affected by that. So I obviously have a vested interest in what goes on in the UK, as does one or more of our guests who are joining us tonight. You'll find out more about that later. So our hearts go out to the performing arts in the UK, who really can't catch a break with this. And fingers crossed that over here in the US, we don't find ourselves in that kind of position again. Now, what else? Oh, on a slightly happier note, on the last show, I talked about A Christmas Carol. And I'm going to give a little plug again for the Sherman Players production of A Christmas Carol, which is our audio production, which is going out nightly at 6:30, premiering on Facebook Live. That's been very well received, and I'm very proud of it. But what I mentioned in the last show was how Christmas Carol was the go-to show for performing arts in the time of the pandemic. If I put my teeth in properly, that'll be good. So it seems, and you heard it first on Keep the Ghost Light On, and now the BBC have even caught up. I read an article on the BBC earlier today talking about, and I think the title was how A Christmas Carol saved live theatre. And it does seem that not only in the UK, but certainly over in the US, there are so many different versions of A Christmas Carol being staged. I think primarily because audiences know it. There are no performing arts rights for it, and it can be staged as simply or as more complicatedly. Is complicatedly a term, Robin? No, he's shaking his head, but there we go. What does Robin know? So in a more complicated manner, if that's what you wish. So and the very last thing for me to say is we're coming up to the start of the 2021 season, whatever that will look like. The only thing we know is that it will be unlike anything else we've seen before. However, it will still require funds in which to be invested in terms of putting on shows. So this is a slight appeal for your support for the Showman Playhouse and the Showman Players. If you would like to make a tax-deductible donation, you can do so on our website, shermanplayers.org. And there's a page there where you can put in all that information. So, okay, that's my brazen appeal for money. Now we'll get over to the interesting bit. Well, we'll speak to Robin first, then we'll get to an interesting bit. So over to Robin to introduce our guests. Robin.
I'm a bit interesting.
You're a bit interesting. There you go.
So, and also, Steve, what's very interesting is that was going to be our last show of the year. Was Christmas Carol. If this never hit, and we were going to be on. We were going to be on stage doing that. I was going to write the version of it, and we were all ready to go about a year ago. And then, oh boy. So yeah, that's a big one. But I'm glad the Playhouse did their audio, and everybody else is trying to chime in as well.
Yeah.
So we've got some great guests tonight. We're gonna go with Shannon first. How are you tonight, Shannon?
I am good. Thank you so much.
Okay. Shannon, choreographer, very large resume, according to that. And so we don't have all night for your resume, I'm sorry to tell you. But please get some highlights out there, where you started and how this pandemic has affected you.
I grew up in Ridgefield, Connecticut. So I started everything down there. The theater barn is down there. My high school program, Spotlight Theater, which was a kids program. I mean, this is going back to the 80s and 90s, so just a few years ago. I currently reside in Naugatuck with my husband and my daughter, and I'm the advisor and drama director at Naugatuck High School, which is Region 14, Woodbury, Bethlehem. So most of the better part of my adult life was spent as an actor, and I worked and I toured. And then as I got a little bit older, I'm like, hey, I need to get something that's reliable, because, you know, we all get that talk from our parents. It's like, okay, that was fun. Now what? So I became a teacher. I went back to school. I became a teacher, and then started with choreography because my background was heavy in dance and musical theater, and then became a director subsequently after the fact. Like, I trickled down through different programs. Joyce Flanagan from Richfield High School was my mentor for 100 years. I worked in New Canaan for a while, and now I've sort of settled on my own program, which is neat because I've taken all the knowledge that I've gathered as an actor, choreographer, working under some really awesome people over the years, and in the community theater world as well, and then sort of implementing it with my kids at Naugatuck. So it's definitely been a challenge. Last year was super sad. We were slated to do Shrek, the musical. We were a week and a half out from opening. So the set was built, costumes were ready, everything was ready to go when Region 14 pulled the plug and they went remote. And we were told that just sort of keep pushing it, keep working, because we don't know what this looks like. And we were told it could be 2 weeks. You could maybe do the show at the end of April, and then it changed to May, June. So I kept rehearsing my kids via Google Meets, and we kept the momentum going as long as we possibly could. And then we finally got word in June that we were not going to be allowed to do an official stage production, but that the superintendent gave me permission to bring in small groups of kids. So duets, trios, under 10 humans, to come onto the stage to record snippets of the show. So at least there was some record, especially for the seniors who put all their years into the program, and then their senior year kind of go, you know. And all 5 of my leads, my Shrek, Fiona, Donkey, Farquaad, were all seniors. So this was like their big, you know, finale. So we recorded some, and then the district put it out there sort of in little YouTube bits saying, this is what they did, you know, this is what we were supposed to do. We kept them going as long as we could. It was really difficult though, because a lot of the kids, as they became distanced learners, were sitting in front of a computer all day long. So then on top of that, trying to gather them to rehearse, you started to see, you know, not as many little squares on your screen. People sort of would check out and they didn't come to rehearsals. And these are kids who are passionate, but it was just really hard for them. They were struggling. Even the most diligent ones who were never miss a rehearsal were struggling. So at least we got to do something for them. And then we all know how the summer has gone, and the fall I was told to start the program back up again. So we've had rehearsals. We had auditions back in November for Seussical. We've been rehearsing 2 days a week, completely remotely. We're totally remote till January 19th, and then we're hoping to be in person. We're trying to raise money to get those singers masks, those awesome masks that are specifically made for singers, so that they can rehearse in person and not be sucking their masks in their face. And hoping to do a production in March with no audience. We're told right now with no audience, expect them to be performing to an empty house. However, they're hoping to get the kids back on the stage. So I'm just rehearsing them. I'm trying to keep the momentum going and keeping them super positive because they want it. You know, these are kids who seek out this program at, I mean, it's an regional ag school. So it's not like these kids are at arts magnet school or some of these big programs that we have in Connecticut. This is an ag school. So these kids are seeking out the program because they need a place to go. I always say I'm the mayor of the misfit toys because everyone finds a place that doesn't necessarily fit any place else. So we have our fingers crossed for Seussical.
I think the misfit toys bit probably, I think we all feel like that. I think everyone on the call and anybody who takes part in theatre or in performing arts probably feels like that at some point. So what you're doing at school is, I feel, is vital, and it is heartbreaking when that has to be closed down, because it's the sports program for kids that don't do sports. Exactly.
And that's why we're allowed to rehearse remotely right now. Even though we may go back in January, right now, the only way to do it is remote because sports are not being allowed. And the only way I was green lighted to do anything was if sports were being sort of allowed, because if they don't allow sports, then of course they're not going to allow. It's all team activity and group activity. That's right. And it is as much action on stage as there is in sports. Indeed. And just to clarify, when you say an ag school, you're talking about an agricultural school, or Nonawag, which is Region 14, which is Woodbury, Bethlehem, Connecticut. But it's a regional ag school, which means that anyone from the state of Connecticut, any child can apply to go there if they're interested in following the fields of agricultural science. So we've got kids from Danbury as far as up in New Hartford. So they're coming from all over. The majority of my kids that are in the club are kids who come from out of town. Right. So they're Watertown, Oxford. I think the farthest one that I have this year is Bethel. So that's a bus ride to go from Bethel to Woodbury. That's right. So to do these sort of extracurricular activities means they really want to do it. It's definitely an additional commitment for them and the parents. Yes. Because they're not getting that bus ride home. They're having to come get them, which is why the one thing about the remote rehearsals, even though it's very difficult rehearsing a musical remotely, is that they have no excuse for not being there on time at 2:15 when the rehearsal starts tomorrow at 2:15. There's no excuse. It's because you're not driving from anywhere and you're not getting out of class late. You literally have to click from one screen to another. You're already there. Yeah. So Robin, do you have anything you'd like to ask?
Well, it was interesting. when I started my career, well, I went to Nanolog as a high school student, and I also directed there for about 10 years, both the non-musical and the musical, straight play, as they say, and the musical. And I agree about the ag students. They were my favorite to work with. They were very talented, and they were so dedicated. They had such a great work ethic, and we try to teach. When we're directing children, at times we're trying to teach them a good work ethic as much as possible. But these people, I don't know if they still do this, but they get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and learn parliamentary procedure. They're there and they're awake and they are bright. And I really like work. I always love working with those people, and they are, it's like a private school for them. It's full.
Their schedules are packed.
Yeah, they're packed. Yeah. So congratulations on all that going on for them. And we all appreciate you still having the time to do it. Yeah, it must be tough. It must be tough. Go ahead.
Do you do anything more outside of school? Do you act outside of school? Do you get involved in other activities?
I did for a long time. And then when I had my daughter 7 years ago, I sort of went into what I call retirement.
Yeah.
And I only come out for very specific projects because it's hard, the nighttime rehearsals. Like, I'm not willing to give up that time with her at this point because they're only little once. So I've been on the other side of the table doing the directing, and what's been fun is that she's kind of come along with me, and so she's become sort of a mascot. And even with shows that are maybe not necessarily deemed age appropriate, she just like rolls with it. I directed the Laramie Project a couple of years ago, and she sat right there and she knew, what was going on and everything, and she would watch rehearsals and roll with it. I'd love to get back on the stage. I've done a couple of virtual cabarets to help up other theaters raise money. But as far as shows, I haven't been on the stage in a show since the Brookfield Theater did Bear, the pop opera, a couple of years ago.
Yes.
And a friend of mine directed it, and I got to play the mom, and I had a really rude awakening that all of a sudden I was like, have I been in retirement that long that I'm officially the mom?
Yes.
Amongst all these
you've moved up a couple
Anna
of levels.
Because Anna's about the age group where the kids were playing all the high schoolers, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm the mom now. Oh, all right. So, I'm praying that everything will change, and at some point I'll get back on the stage. But honestly, I love being on the other side of the table. I really do. It's just, I like to see what people can do and come up with, especially the kids.
Yes.
It does my heart really good just to see them letting loose and finding something that they really love, because it reminds me of how I came to it. So I'm trying to keep fueling the fire.
How during this pandemic, when you were trying to rehearse them in groups, and now that you're looking to rehearse for Susical, how are the kids reacting to that? To them, is it just another session on Zoom for them, so they take it in their stride, or are they as enthusiastic about the shows as you would hope?
This year
they may be listening to this, so I'll throw that one out there.
This year feels different. Last year it felt like you were trying to keep the steam going, trying to keep them from feeling heartbroken because they put in all those months, and then at the last minute it got snatched away. And as many times as they would say to me, like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? They knew, as we watched how everything was trending, they had to know that show was not going to happen. And we kept them going because we wanted to try to get that footage and to keep them doing something, because a lot of them didn't have anything else. So at a time when things were getting really dark, some of these kids needed something to be happening for them. This year, I think they were bananas to start something new because they were so tired of doing nothing all summer and not seeing people. So jumping off to do auditions, they were losing their minds. They were thrilled. I gave them, and I did something different. And Robin, I don't know how you did it when you were there, but I let them choose. I did a Google survey on, I gave them 2 shows and let them sort of vote. The administration felt like, let's give them some ownership. And that is something that was never allowed back in the day. I never had any say at what high school musical I was going to be in, that's for sure. So they ultimately voted on Seussical because they felt like it was the right show to do at this time, because people needed something that was light and fun and would bring them joy. So when they meet, they're really good about it. And it's so odd because where last year it felt like, come on guys, like we can do this. You're trying to keep them up. And this year they're the ones sort of rolling it out and really showing that they want to do it. I have a senior that wants to be an AD. I have a senior who wants to costume design this year, which is phenomenal. He's been with the program for 3 years and said, Shannon, I really want to try this. What do you think? I said, let's meet, let's figure this out. And then I have a underclassman who has a really strong dance background who wants to sort of help with the choreography. So they're sort of taking ownership and jumping in. So it's neat. Like last week I had a Google Meets with 2 actors to work on, you know, their specific acting moments. And then I had her doing a dance rehearsal on a totally separate Google Meets at the same time. And we still got every stuff accomplished. And I have a very respectful group. I have a respectful group this year.
That's excellent. That's great if they're taking ownership.
You know, if this wouldn't have worked 2 years ago with the group I had, it wouldn't have worked. It depends on the temperament of the kids. So
so they chose Seussical over Hamlet, right?
Exactly.
Hamlet the musical.
Hamlet the musical. That's something rotten.
Yes.
We were supposed to actually do a fall play that was sort of going to be the extension of rebuilding the program that has sort of dissipated over the years. And then that obviously couldn't happen. So I gave them the choice. The choices were Theory of Relativity or Seussical. So 2 totally different shows. And they still voted on Seussical. So I said, okay.
It's fun.
Good. It's fun. It's a great sort of ensemble show, which is always a winner for high school. Well, so winner for high school. But thank you, Shannon. I think we'll don't go anywhere. Stay where you are. Stay on Zoom like you have been all day for the last 6 months. Stay on Zoom with us, and we'll move on to Robin.
I'm going to shuffle down our virtual couch over to Paula. How are you, Paula?
Hey, I'm good, thank you.
It's very late over there, and thank you so much for staying up with us. And we have been chatting back and forth since I asked you to be on this show. I saw you interview Arek, which is interesting. That he's on the show as well. We'll get to him, obviously. And I would say that you are, for the most part, a Renaissance woman in the arts in so many different ways, attacking it in so many different ways, which is wonderful. And again, we don't have all night, we don't have all morning for you either. So if you can keep the resume a bit brief, but let us know how you got into it, where your career took you, and how did the pandemic affect you and how it's affecting you now.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, I was a makeup artist, retrained in 2018. And within a year, I managed to get into 7 publications, front cover of an international fashion magazine. You know, I was doing really well. I went to Cannes Film Festival and again to Alicante in Spain for some projects, music videos, etc. And I'm a single parent of 3 children. So working in film and TV is the highest paid for a makeup artist. Fashion doesn't pay very well at all. And so I wanted to get into it, but as a single parent, you have to leave the house at 6 in the morning and come back up to midnight and quite often be away on location. So I was waiting for the right time. And last September, I found it was the right time for my son was old enough for me to kind of leave. And so, well, I say leave, but, you know, my daughters were old enough, and I just had a bit more of a setup to support him. So then I got involved with a production company and was doing commercials. And then just before, I'm taking you to just before lockdown, I'd secured 3 commercials, a feature film as a makeup artist, a feature film, 3 short films, and a sitcom pilot. I was also setting up an events company with somebody that would have earned me an awful lot of money, because I was also presenting for a magazine called Integrity Magazine. And I did the Brits after party. So I think it was 33 interviews in one night. Like, they were quick 2-minute interviews over and over, and they were all unscripted. I had to do it off the hip, you know, just, it was the first time I've ever done any interviews. And then I started writing articles for Integrity, and I became one of their presenters. So that was happening, and I had a part-time job, and I had so much going on. I also had another work opportunity. All this was happening. It was going to be a massively busy year. Lockdown came, and it was like, whew, supermarket sweep, all gone, absolutely gone. And so I had about 2 days of boohooing. And then I just, because Les Brown, the American motivational speaker, he has this amazing saying that there's always stuck with me: don't let the ghosts of your talents die with you. And also A Wonderful Life, it's just my favorite film. And I just remember how, you know, the oh gosh, I can't remember his name now, the main character, he turned around and said, the angel Clarence turned around to him, "You've had a really wonderful life." And we don't know how we impact other people. So I have the ability, and I've done a lot of mindset work over the last few years, I have the ability to switch my mindset to think, okay, well, what else can I do? And I developed a talk at London universities called Thinking Outside the Box. So I turned those tools onto myself. So after gathering myself back up after 2 days, I decided to write. I had this bunch of poems I'd been writing for about 9 months, and I found myself a publisher, and there's my first poetry book. I've got them all here. So the first poetry book was called An Ode to Woman, which is an anthology of poetry dedicated to the art of being a woman, which takes you from birth through to death and all the things that happen to a woman. And actually, men love this book more than women. Well, women love it, but men are my biggest customers of buying this book, because they say it tells them more about being a woman than any other book they've ever read. And it's poetry, it's just short poems. And then I wrote a self-help book called The 7 Traits of a Highly Successful Single Parent. I wanted to put down all the tools and mindset skills that I'd learned, and I wanted to help other people in the middle of this pandemic. So I also became a presenter on a regular, which is where I met Arek, interviewed him, called The Friday Vibe for Integrity Magazine, and had a regular slot. I chose my guests. I chose Arek because he was just, you know, he's out there, he's doing his stuff, he's constantly working, he's really dedicated to his art and his profession, and was always posting. And so I chose people based on what they were doing and how they had this positive outlook on their professions and their career, and regardless of what was happening in the world, they were still plugging themselves, still going for stuff. Even if they weren't getting paid, they were still out there and going for things. So they were the people I chose to interview. And I also was asked to host a podcast, a live interview podcast similar to this, called The Curtain Call. And it was all about celebrating people's achievements. So I did that for 6 weeks. And then I got to working back with the production company when lockdown kind of eased off. Then we went back into lockdown again. So I was like, great. So I wrote another book.
Oh, very good.
So yeah, I wrote this in 11 days. It's bigger than the other one. It's 105 poems dedicated to the art of being a man from a woman's point of view. It's actually called A Woman's Ode to Man, and it just covers all aspects of being a man from a woman's point of view. Right, you can imagine what that's like, right? But it's more quirky and funny than the first one, because it's It's meant to be. It's meant to be lighthearted.
Because men get laughed at.
Mm-hmm.
Men are ridiculous anyway. Men are ridiculous anyway.
But I really enjoyed it. I laugh at my own poems. I mean, I really enjoyed it. If I had to describe myself, it would be kind of Pam Ayres, who's a British.
I know Pam Ayres, yes.
Pam Ayres, Dr. Zeus, and Dylan Thomas all rolled into one with a bit of quirky Welshness thrown in.
Oh, very good.
So yeah, so that's how, if I had to kind of pinpoint my style, I suppose. So yeah, and that's what I did, and then lockdown came, and it's been. I've had my own stuff going on with my family life, and so I've very much for the last probably 6 weeks I've been firefighting at home, helping my daughter doing mocks and not going into school, and we've had bullying. So a lot of what I've written about have happened to my family and to me. So I'm at the grassroots of everything that's going on, because I actually have walked many people's paths. A lot has happened in my life. So where am I? How do I respond to? Oh, and I also just won. Even though I've hardly done any makeup, I've just won a best makeup artist title at the British Fashion Festival, which is interesting. And my daughter actually won best model. So yeah, it was a bit weird, really. So for me, it's been an absolutely brilliant year in terms of what I've achieved.
Good.
And I've stepped up and I've stepped out, and I've become like Arek, one of these people who I see, you know, is very proficient on boosting themselves, lifting themselves up, and always being visual to their audience. And that's what I do. I think my job from now on is just to give hope and inspiration and help people kind of get through this as much as I can, whether it's writing, whether it's the techniques of how to change your mindset from negativity to positivity, whether it's just throwing out a funny meme or a lovely little post. And I throw in about 2 or 3 poems a week on my timeline as well.
What I would say, Paul, and I think Robin will agree with me on this, you could almost be the poster child for what we've heard on this show, on this series as we go along, in terms of the creativity of people in the performing arts, and the fact that no matter what, they still have a need to create, and will find a way to create, whether that's writers who have decided, you know, okay, I've now got the time to write, or it's actors who've got the time to work on their own projects that they didn't have before, or, you know, all these people thinking of new interesting ways to engage with other people. I mean, you're obviously, you're writing, you're still engaging in some of those things that you did before, and we've also found, and we did a show a few weeks back, which I think we titled Silver Linings, which was really where we talked a lot about, you know, the hidden, and benefit isn't the term, but the hidden opportunity of the pandemic, as far as, you know, giving time or giving opportunity to rethink the way that you do things, or forcing you, if you want to continue in the vein that you have been, in finding a different way to do that. And we've certainly heard a lot of hope come out of these stories, and I say, you're all this while, as you say, real life is happening as well.
Yeah, I've had some crazy things happen this year as well, but all to do with my family, you know.
Yes.
All to do with my family. And, you know, my phone died, my Mac was dying, everything all got hit, but I'm still managing to just keep going, because I have a really strong faith, and I've had to learn to love myself. And that is one of the key things that you need to do when you're stuck at home, stuck alone, especially this Christmas. It's a very lonely time. I've had many Christmases on my own. I've been single for 6 years. You know, I've had many Christmases on my own, and New Year's Eve, I've had the last 4 New Year's Eve on my own. And you have to learn to love yourself. And I think that's the key to get through this. Really like your own company, be your own best friend. And if there's something about you that you don't like, now is the opportunity to change it.
That very, very wise words. I mean, again, it really does, you know, as we come to the end of the year, and we take stock of what we've covered with this show and the people we've talked to, you really make an excellent sort of summary test case for what we've seen and what we've heard. Robin, I think you'd agree with that.
Yep. Yeah. And as Steve and I talk about probably every week, we thought this was going to be the boohoo of the century, as you had mentioned, and we really didn't get too much of it at all. And again, you know, it was great that you said, you know, a couple of days, of, and I had those too, you know, and we get down every day at some level, or every other day, you know, but it's a lot of people say it's the way that the confines, you know, like Shannon had too, like the confines, and you're just pressed to do, you know, this type of thing, this Zoom type of thing, or something akin to that. Just creativity explodes. It can explode. Or you go into all these different mediums like writing, which I did, teaching, which I'm doing more of, and things like that. And it's it can be. I've always felt, and Shannon and Steve can attest to this, that zero budget, it sucks, but it gives you an amazing amount of creativity to go by. Yes. Beg, borrowing, and stealing for props or whatever, you know, and doing as best as you can. I think that's happened from day one of the performing arts. It really has. You know, I think we got stripped. We got stripped of a lot. I mean, we got stripped of a lot of opportunities, but we also got, you know, some ways to deal with it, as Paula was talking about. So Paula, what's Integrity Magazine? Excuse my ignorance.
Oh, so it's an online magazine, kind of aimed at arts, music, film. So most of the people I put in there, Arek's had an article in there, have been actors, directors, producers. I've had a couple of #1 chart hitters, toppers in there. So, you know, singers. I interviewed a writer, and, you know, it's basically it's for the arts and it's creative, and it's called Integrity Magazine because we focus very much on the person and doing the right thing. And I'm just one of the presenters. I'm one of the presenters and the contributors.
Is it mostly
so the website? Sorry, the website for that, is it?
It's a Facebook page. If you go to Facebook page Integrity Magazine, you'll Fantastic. See it on there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Robin was going to ask the same question I was, so go ahead, Robin.
Oh, is it United Kingdom based out of?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Right,
yes, cool. I can see the wheels going round in Robin's head. No, he's gonna keep in touch with you.
I'm a little Anglo-Saxon.
I can introduce you to Aaliyah. She's the publisher.
Well, I'm a measly little American, so
there we go. No, he does himself down a little bit there, but But thank you, Paul. We'll move on. But again, you know, we see these threads of you know, as Robin says, we've got to do something. Yeah. We've got to do something in this environment, and what's happening is it's causing people to reinvent themselves, or to find new ways to work in this environment, or to simply be more creative. And I'm very excited about what comes out at the end of this. Yeah. You know, what's building up behind the dam that's going to come out at the end of this. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that with Arek and Anna. So Robin, over to you.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think the obvious segue is to go to Arek. who was interviewed by Paula for Integrity Magazine. And that's how I got both of them, which I really appreciate you guys doing this. Arek was very interesting on his journey to basically acting and theater and film. And so Arek, tell us a bit about your resume, how you got into it, and how the pandemic has affected you.
So this is such a big topic, you know, and I'm asking myself right now question, where do I start really? Maybe from the beginning when Shannon said that, you know, she was yours, Shannon, acting, and then your mom said, and now what? You know, let's do something different. I think my life looked slightly different, like kind of upside down. So for many years, you know, I was in financial services, in banking, and that was my banking professional career in City of London. But then over years, you know, I kind of found myself asking the question. I always loved movies, and I still remember when I was a little kid, you know, that was the first time when my mom took me to that was in the kindergarten basically, and she signed up me for some play that was, you know, I was wearing some silly costume, which was fun as a kid. I pretty much don't remember anything right now, except that I had really good fun. And then they were, I remember, this is interesting. This, what I'm going to say right now, I only realized today when I was thinking about this interview, you know, and show. And I remember when I was kid, again at kindergarten, there was one day when they shut down all the corner and we were not allowed to get out of it. And they said, this is because they are filming, you know, and I was so curious what they are filming. And I can see all the cameras on the street, you know, through the window, but we couldn't go outside. And that was pretty much the end of the episode, but somehow it stuck in my memory. And now I'm saying it for the first time ever, really, online. But now fast forward, you know, I always loved watching films and movies, and I was going very, very, very frequently to the cinema or movie theater just to watch practically every single, you know, week, maybe twice a week, to see movies over years, obviously. And then I kind of subconsciously was thinking what these people, you know, do to be on this big screen. And I thought, oh, I would be scared to actually do what I'm just seeing on the screen. And how do they do it? And even how do they produce the films, you know, because I can experience all the emotions. The story drags me in and I watch it on the big screen. And I have absolutely no idea. And I'm asking myself in that time, how do they do it instead of enjoying actually the story, you know, and I'm thinking about acting and so on. And that kind of, you know, was circulating around my head. And I was thinking, maybe I should try and do something like this, you know. And then opportunity came when I was at City of London. One of my friends, she attended one of the courses for, that was a workshop for choir. So she was having grand finale of the choir at Bishopsgate Institute. And this is an institute where you have a lot of creative minds right in City of London, you know, and you can learn a lot of interesting skills. And then I asked myself, and I asked actually Daniela, do you guys have acting classes there, you know, because that was something I would really want to. And she said, yeah, go for it, you know, there is a class, check it out. And this is what I did. I went to the class, signed up for, I think that was about 3 months course to do acting. And then I remember my first class that was with Valerie Dent. She's really good teacher, great teacher, my first ever teacher in London, and she's still teaching acting. Right now it is a little bit more difficult, you know, you cannot really do it in person. But at that time, my first class, and I fell in love with it. And I thought to myself, you know what? This is what I should be doing, really. And then I was going to the acting classes. I fell in love more and more every single time, you know, I was going to the class. And then this workshop ended after 3 months. Then I was asking myself, what is the next step? Because I really wanted to continue. I didn't know how, I didn't know what. I just knew basically at that point of time, I really enjoyed the process, you know, and going from the corporate side of things, and then with this analytical and professional mind to do something totally different. I think that was some sort of catharsis for me, because it gave me balance between something that was really serious to something that I could make laugh at me and make fool out of me, and then enjoy the time basically. And everyone else did it, and then I got better and better at it basically. So I just fell in love, and then I went to New York Film Academy in Burbank in Los Angeles, just for a workshop to see. And then I remember we had the workshop, obviously, many different classes, and we were shooting at the Universal Studios Hollywood backlot, which was a great experience. That was one Thursday. We had 2 short films to shoot, and that was my first time on the camera, just doing something like this. So I still remember. And then I thought, wow, this is amazing. I absolutely love it, and not just the plays, but just going through the whole process. It was very simple, 1 and 2 films, very short films, but still that was kind of, this sparked my my love to do something like this. And then we were on Saturday watching what the director and cinematographer they shot through their lens, and how they edited, and it was just amazing, experience. So basically, then I was asking myself, okay, fine, what's next? I had this training, I did it, I enjoyed that. I had this training in London, in LA. But what would be the next step? Because I believe it's not it. This is just the beginning. Basically, I'm scratching the surface. That was back in 2016. So that was 4 years ago. And I thought, I came back to London, and then I thought I need to do something, like create my own work. I've never directed any film, I've never created anything, and I've never even written a story. But somehow I got that inspiration. I don't know, I was working out in the gym, and suddenly the idea came, and I went right to the locker and then spent maybe 30 minutes, writing on a piece of paper something, and the other guys were looking, what are you doing, in this locker, just straight after working out. I was just writing a story, basically. And I teamed up with a couple of friends, and I decided and got them somehow dragged into the idea of shooting a short film on the island of Cyprus, because I thought, acting right now is my big passion, but I absolutely love travel. I can go absolutely everywhere for many days and weeks and just enjoy something new. So I thought that was winter time. Cyprus is relatively warm. It's a beautiful island on Mediterranean. And then I had a friend who had a beautiful tourist complex, and he is very supportive to cinema overall. And it was relatively easy to find the location to shoot at, and then they had this support. So then I thought we are going to do it. And then I went on the plane to Cyprus with some other actors, and we shot 2 short films on the island. And then a couple of months later, they were going through film festivals and started winning awards, which was amazing. My first ever film, which wasn't perfect. My acting wasn't perfect because I was just learning. And then I didn't see myself as a director either, because that was just very organic. I just wanted to support my acting career, basically, to do my own work and then tell my story, basically. That's pretty much it. And it somehow got traction. And then one thing led to another. And I got, by the way, this inspiration from, I still remember at New York Film Academy, they organized Q&A with stars or actors or directors, producers at Warner Brothers, which is just beside the Academy. And I remember there was just one night with Seth Rogen, and he said basically that was Q&A with students. So basically he was talking about his film, and then there was a screening of his new film at that time. And then students could ask questions after the screening. And he said something that really resonated in me. And I believe, if some relatively new actors are watching this show right now on Facebook Live, maybe this will, guys, inspire you. I don't know. It's not me. I'm passing the message basically from Seth. What he said to us you don't have to wait for anything to happen to you guys, really. You know, you just need to create your own work. There is no point in being passive. You need to be proactive and do your stuff. If you have stories to say, just keep writing and make it happen, you know. And this is how he inspired me through that answer to somebody else's question, by the way. It wasn't me asking. And that, you know, I should be doing something. So I wrote this Let Go the Prelude that we shot at the island of Cyprus. And this is how it all began, you know. And then fast forward to today, I wrote a couple of other short films. I'm still scratching the surface. If I go back in time to January this year, that was before the pandemic began. This is to come back to your question, you know, how this affected me, the pandemic. I thought this year will be great for me. You know, I just had a lot of great training. I wrote a couple of films, and then at that point of time, I was going through the editing of Let Go, Letting Go film drama. I thought this is going to be released around March, April this year. Then I will go through so many different film festivals, you know, and meet creative, like-minded people in LA, Vegas, and in different places. And none of that, well, some of it happened in a different way than I expected. So basically, the film has been released, and it seems won quite a few nice awards at film festivals. But the pandemic, in a way, boosted. This is what you were saying, Steve, you know, about this hidden way how pandemic can give you an opportunity in a way. So it is not that obvious, but it could potentially happen. It happened to me in a way that we had lockdown here in the UK, and you couldn't do much really. But if you have creative mind, you could start writing and then making story happen. So I was inspired by pandemic in early days, and I wrote this story about musician who is trying to be a rock star. He's from Florida, and he came to Scotland to see his mother, you know, at her birthday. And then somehow he got stuck because of the pandemic, because all the flights are canceled and he cannot go back to Florida. And he is right now with his mom in her house, and his wife, who's in Florida, she's not really that happy, you know, that what's going on, because she wants him to be back and not being in Scotland somewhere. So it is a very short comedy, which again won a lot of awards, which was quite surprising. I got Megan Coker and Pat Caesar, who are nice, really good, talented actors from New Jersey and Atlanta, Georgia. And we cooperated and collaborated over the internet. And again, this is for you guys who are watching right now this show. You know, we did all of it through internet. I mean, this could potentially inspire you, because I was shooting my takes here in Scotland. My mom, who is on the screen, you can watch this film, by the way, through Facebook. You'll find the link. It's called Alone Apart. So my mom, who appears to be in Scotland, she's in New Jersey, really, shooting her own takes. Obviously, I was, you know, giving the frames and how this is going to look like and the storyboarding and so on. But obviously, she had to direct herself, you know, her own takes. And then Megan Coker, my on-screen wife in Florida, she was in Atlanta. And again, she was shooting her own with daughter, our daughter, I mean, her real daughter, yep. But my on-screen daughter, you know, they were shooting their own takes, and then they sent me the footage. I combined this all together, and I think it looks quite nice, given that it has some audience, and it was on Roku TV for a number of for a film festival. Then it got quite a few awards and recognition. So this is in a way how pandemic, you know, affected me. And also what I would say, I always wanted to learn visual special effects, because I was wondering, how do they do, you know, you have this spaceship, how do you do this, make spaceship to fly, and then you can see it from different angles, and how does it shoot anyways, and then there you have this space, and then you have explosions. And I absolutely love watching this type of films on the screen, and I really wanted to do something myself. And again, when I was, you know, working out in the gym, I always listened to very interesting YouTube videos of how people do stuff,
Yeah.
which is great resource, by the way. If you use YouTube, you can learn absolutely everything. And then I have this to-do list, and this to-do list is a massive list of things that I would like to do. And one of the things was VFX, just to learn how to do visual special effects. Never had chance, and I've learned thanks to the pandemic. And I wrote Incoming Impact, sci-fi comedy. It's super funny, in my opinion, obviously, comedy. And it's about a spaceship. So I learned how to design spaceship, how to fly it, how to make it look as it is space, really. And it is right now streaming on Roku TV on Shorts Daily channel as part of Silver State Film Festival. And this is, you know, how you could put this advantage in a way of being locked in some place where your movement has been restricted to actually, and your auditions. Well, auditions, this is another topic actually to talk about.
Yes.
You guys know that best, you know. You could, well, you might have reduced opportunity in a way that you don't go to the room. But the beauty is that you can self-tape yourself, you know, just put nice background behind you, put the lights on, assuming that you get asked, or you can go to open calls as well. Or you can, on Actors Access, sometimes casting director can send you EcoCast, you know, where you can again self-tape yourself and then see what happens with that. So, and this is in a way also
a lot of opportunities. Absolutely, a lot of opportunities. Yeah. You actually remind me, Arek, of a friend of mine who I always described him as thinking in straight lines, and by that I mean most of us think, oh, I'd quite like to do such and such a thing, and we say, well, how am I going to do that? Oh, well, first I've got, and then I've got to do, well, I don't know whether I can do that or not. And it might take a long time. Whereas you sound like the kind of person that thinks, I'd quite like to do that, so I will. And you find a direct path to doing it. And you do strike me as being a very optimistic, an optimistic guy with a positive attitude, and I think that's for this last number of months, that's clearly been something that is really needed. So you know, I applaud you for having that. So I think what we need to do, we need to let Paula go, because I think she has to be up and about and doing lots of things first thing in the morning, and it is 1:30 in the UK now. So Paula, thank you so much for joining us, and we'd love to have you back again in the future, see how things are going once we know what's happening with the pandemic. But it's been fascinating hearing about everything that you've been going on to, and we'll keep an eye on what we see you up to in the future as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. Take care, everyone. Merry
Thank
Christmas.
you, Paula.
Thank you, Paula. Merry Christmas. Yes, so Robin.
Yeah, let's get to Anna. How are you today, Anna?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for doing this. It seems like when I put your post on the Facebook page, you had a lot of people interested in taking a look at what you're doing, and you're got a lot of fans, so that's great, especially at your age. And I know you've been doing a lot of film, TV, some stage. So tell us about your career getting off the ground, and if COVID, the pandemic, has slowed you down or has given you more opportunities or less opportunities.
Okay, so I've always been interested in acting ever since I was like 3 years old. I would put on one-act plays for my family and I would give them tickets. So it was no surprise when I said I wanted to act. They were like, okay, like we knew that from the start. And entering middle school, I kind of threw it in my back pocket, didn't think about it much, that going on with that. And then as I entered high school, I joined the theater program, and I was like, I remember loving this so very much, but it never was really a passion of mine. I enjoyed doing it. So I talked to my drama coach about it, and he was like, well, try TV and film. And so I ventured out towards that, and he helped me get accepted into a talent agency, and they signed me. And I mean, it's been a crazy ride ever since. I've been doing this professionally for a little over a year now. And for the most part, the biggest part of it has been COVID, because COVID's been going on since March. So a big portion of my acting process has been during COVID. So I really don't know that much different than not without COVID. And it's affected things slightly for me, because I mean, we live in a day and age where technology is a thing, and that's a wonderful thing, because we can film a self-tape and then submit it, and you don't have to be there actually in person, which I think it's an advantage. And we can do Zooms just like this. So that's kind of what's keeping the acting business open, I would assume, is the fact that we can just open a computer and see people, which is a wonderful thing. I've been in a couple of things, short films mainly. When COVID first hit, a lot of things were postponed and a lot of things were canceled. So it kind of made me a little upset, because I was like, I just started this and it feels like it's already going downhill. So it was hard to kind of keep my head up and continue doing what I love doing. As of right now, I think 2021 is going to bring a lot of luck and a lot of new films, and I have a lot of things booked for then. So I'm very excited about that.
That's great. So are you actively with an agency right now?
I am. I have an agent and a manager.
And I haven't asked this question, I don't think ever. Maybe Steve will tell me I did, but how are they treating you? How do they have to buck you up a lot and get you happy about what you're doing, and there's always going to be the future and all that? Or do you feel that they suffer with this as well?
I feel like they suffer with this as well. I feel like everybody in their own individual way is kind of suffering with this, and it's hard to keep your head on straight, and then it's hard to keep looking at the future.
Okay, but they're supportive, obviously.
They're very supportive, yes.
That's great.
Okay. It interests me the comment you made about, you know, sort of COVID's really the major, or this period anyway, is the major part of your acting career, because it's where you found yourself. And your comment about the technology. Do you, and I'll see how I can phrase this, because again, you've not really got anything to compare this to, but,
right.
But do you feel that your opportunities for networking with other people are stifled by COVID, or do you think the fact that anybody could be anywhere, and you can still be talking to them, you don't have to be in the same physical location anymore, you can be talking to someone in LA, you can be talking to someone in New York, you could be talking to Arek in the UK, you could be talking to anybody. Do you feel that, how do you feel that's playing out for you personally?
I feel like it kind of is a little bit of both. It's an advantage and a disadvantage, because we can sit here and do a table read, or we can do an audition, but we can't all be together and we can't all be filming. So it's, I guess I would say both.
Yeah, because we kind of heard that from you know, slightly more experienced actors. We had an actor on the last show who was definitely working with more people than he would have been working with otherwise. It doesn't necessarily mean more will come of it. Doesn't necessarily mean he'll be working more, because he had some fairly regular work and some strong contacts in, you know, sort of in New York and around this area. But he's finding himself now, you know, he'll be talking to, I'll say, someone in LA that he wouldn't necessarily have come into contact with before. So that's a perception that there is again, a sort of hidden opportunity in all this. I also, yeah, carry on, Robin.
Okay, I just want one question. Are you taking this opportunity to train as much as you can, or you don't have time to do that, or were you going to do that anyways?
I'm a full-time student. I'm a senior in high school. So my workload is quite increased since last year being a junior. So I'm kind of trying to find a happy medium of a balance with work and my acting and also my school. But any time I have free time, I am finding Zooms and finding things that I can attend that help me build my training. And like I said, technology is so amazing because I don't have to be there. I can be with a coach in Los Angeles if I wanted to.
And before,
yes, carry on, Robin.
Just we try to have people plug as much as they can, like Arek did and Paula did. What's a good film to see you in right now that we can get a hold of, or a commercial or something like that?
There's a couple films out. I don't know if any of them can be accessed yet. A lot of it is in post-production. Justice Through Redemption, I believe, is coming out December. It is a feature film. Should be coming out in North Carolina theaters, but I mean, I'm sure you can find it on Amazon or something like that. I play Elaine Wren, the daughter of the main character.
Right.
Okay, cool.
And I mean, simple question, are you continuing to enjoy acting, even though it's different from probably what you had in your head for what this year would be? Are you continuing to enjoy it?
I love it. I really do. I mean, it's definitely a passion of mine. I mean, you have ups and downs every single day, especially with COVID, but I continue to love and enjoy doing it.
Are you remote for your high school?
I am. I actually was a homeschool student before COVID was a thing, just to have more flexibility.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm finding, again, you know, this notion of doing what you love, and we've heard this time and again that if being in the performing arts is what you want to do, whether it's filmmaking, whether it's education in the performing arts, whether it's film, TV, theatre, acting, directing, whatever it is you want to do, if it's where you want to be, you will find a way. And again, you know, we'll hark back to a point that Robin made way back. This profession, this activity, has always been difficult. There's always been obstacles. There's always been reasons why you shouldn't do it. And to hear the stories from people like you, from our other guests, on how, you know, you really want to do it, so that COVID becomes just another thing, just another situation that makes, you know, this kind of profession, this kind of activity something, you know, something to solve. Clearly, we shouldn't underestimate the impact on the other aspects of the performing arts. You know, things that might be considered more the trades of the performing arts, where, you know, creatives can create. You know, electricians, gaffers, cameramen, you know, can't do that so much without a project to be working on. So we've got to be mindful of that. But again, even then, we've heard of opportunities that have presented them because of the technology, for those areas of the business. So I think we've gone slightly over time, and it is very early in the morning for Arek. So I think it's probably a good time to round things up. We've heard some great stories again, and I'm sure people get very bored with me saying this. You know, we hear stories of hope. The creative arts will find a way. Creative arts always persists because it's creative. So, you know, I know I speak for Robin when we say that we've been very pleasantly surprised at the stories that we've heard and the optimism that we've heard. So, Robin, do you want to say anything finally before we round up?
No, it's been a wonderful time, guys. I really appreciate you joining us, and I think that'll settle. Have a wonderful holiday.
Yes,
if
yes.
you are in the holidays.
Yes, for those that celebrate Christmas, or are just taking the time to de-stress, or are taking the opportunity not to have the family visit, to have a nice clean house. Have a great time over Christmas. The one thing I would say is that, as always, there are a lot of people who struggle at this time of year. Mm-hmm. And this year clearly has a lot of added stress. So whether that's people in the performing arts, people in the creative industries, or just people in general, do look out for people. If you can reach out to people you think may be vulnerable or having a low time, they'll appreciate it. If you are low, having a hard time, finding it difficult, reach out. And again, especially within the performing arts, we've come to learn over the course of these shows, what a big heart the performing arts community has, and the level of support that the performing arts gives to its family is quite remarkable. So don't be afraid to reach out if you're struggling, if you're feeling low, or if you feel that you can make a difference to someone else in this holiday time, and as we come up to the end of the year. So that's all from me. I will say thank you so much to Anna, Arek, and Shannon, and to Paula in her absence. We've had a great time. Thank you all for joining us, and from all over the place. And good luck in the new year, and have a happy Christmas. And goodbye, everybody on Facebook. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye now.
Have a good one.